One of the things we talk about here is the 80-20 rule. Dyslexic people are super hardworking. We love to kind of torture ourselves, try really hard, be really determined, really, really resilient with our challenges. But our role is 80% of the responsibility to actually figure out how to manage these challenges. And then we can give ourselves slack of 20% to let people help you. In the example of Andrew, he might write the legal document. Someone else might check it to make sure that there's no spelling mistakes, because he's done 80% of the work and someone else is just doing 20%. It's really not that much.
Going back to what you said about that 80-20 rule, I liked that. I wondered where that came from. Is it something that you guys have developed, or is it something that is kind of I might not articulate this well enough. Is it something that employers are expected to do as a reasonable adjustment? Because I love the 80 to 20% rule, and I wish I could kind of go and research it. So is it something you've researched, or is it something you guys have created?
No, it's a Natalie special. So basically a lot of what like I kind of mentioned in the previous session, trying to attack this problem for like many years now and speaking to many different people and being asked the same question many times, is actually our experience is that dyslexic people 9 times out of 10 have the answers of how they want to work and what works best for them. Like often if I said to you, okay, well, what have you done well in the, like a question I will ask in my coaching is, well, what have you done in the past when this has come up? Or what do you think might work? They'll say, oh, I think I might do this. And I said, yeah, that will work because this is what's going on in your brain. And so what I often experience is the difficulty is actually the layers of shame and embarrassment and uncomfort and the reality of communicating this with your employer, and kind of navigating the world. And what I often say to people is like, I know it's really, really hard to have these conversations. And so I want to help you be as in control as possible. I'm the kind of person who I'd prefer to work in the way that the world really works, rather than be like, it shouldn't be like this, people shouldn't say that, but the truth is that they will. I think so like I said, a lot of the theories that we come up with dyslexia adults come from the place of understanding that I can give you every reasonable adjustment under the sun. My experience is that 80% of them aren't used. So like, how am I going to get you to actually use them is actually the crusade that we're mostly on. Like, it's not figuring out the reasonable adjustment. It's figuring out how you're going to use it is often most of the problem we come up against. So that is where the theory has come from. And obviously the 80-20 rule is just a really neat way to explain reasonable adjustments. Like they are one and the same, but it helps the dyslexic person actually advocate for it, because they're like, hey, listen, I'm taking on 80% of the responsibility. Yeah. I'm doing what I want to do. At base, we are just hardworking people. So it's giving you the language to utilize what you already want to do. That's a lot of the work that we do. So yeah, that's the theory behind 80-20. The other thing that you kind of picked up on, and let me give you kind of like the wording for that we say what we're advocating for. So one of the things, bear with me because I do love the sound of my own voice, so it might take a bit of a while to explain this. So one of the things that we often say to people is, it really doesn't matter if you use the word dyslexia or not. What we're saying is lead with what you're good at and then follow with what you're struggling in. Hey, listen, I'm really good at this, so I would really appreciate if you could help me with this other thing so that I can focus more on what I'm good at. And it's really the same in any workplace that you should be fostering. So really everyone, if they're a good manager, should be looking and going like, God, Katie is amazing at putting together presentation. Natalie is amazing at coming up with ways of thinking. Maybe they should work together. It's common sense. And so that's what like the theory that's kind of coming behind it is like, every team should be focusing on whether or not what someone's good at and what someone's not good at, and putting their resources in the place that works. Now, like we've talked about in the real world, it's more complicated than that, and it is difficult and it is embarrassing, all the things we've talked about. But one of the things that, if ever I do an awareness training with companies, that we often talk about, which might give you the language of what we're trying to say, is we talk about 2 pillars: kindness and flexibility. So flexibility is letting someone have a little bit more autonomy over a task. Flexibility is saying, hey, I think that, Katie should do this and Natalie should do that. Flexibility is saying to someone like, I would really appreciate it if I, could take a longer lunch break. I don't know, whatever. And then kindness is ensuring that you aren't layering on shame, embarrassment, frustration, like continuing tropes of like how people should be, or what successful people look like, because stress is one of the number one issues you need to resolve to manage dyslexia successfully. So that's why some workplaces you absolutely suffered and some you didn't. It's often because of stress. So that's basically what's going on. It's just basically trying to think about workplaces of like, what are you good at, what are you not? Right, let's try and utilize our resources best. How do good organizations run? They have kindness and flexibility at their core. That's what we're kind of articulating.